Good morning from Mobile World Congress 2023. I'm here in Barcelona together with Angela Wamola from GSMA, head of Sub-Saharan Africa. Nice to meet you again. I think the last time was in Kigali at the Mobile World Congress last year. It's always a pleasure to follow up with you.
Welcome to Barcelona.
Thank you. So my first question, what emerging trends you see in the Sub-Saharan region or Africa when it comes about the mobile industry and the developments?
Thank you very much. The world and the industry, globally is evolving in terms of the services evolution. We're seeing a lot of innovations happening across all the verticals. I mean, here in Barcelona, as you can see, I think more than 50% of exhibitors are from the other verticals, health, transport, and they're trying to showcase the solutions that we have or we need, in this day and age, post-pandemic, particularly. But in Africa, we see that there is still a sort of a digital divide that's continuing to grow. While the rest of the world is looking at 5G advanced, evolving the maturity of 5G all the way to 6G, in Africa we're still having conversations now on 2G, 3G shutdowns. And the bedrock of that centers around the affordability of devices. To date, they're still not accessible to the majority of the population. Over 80% of Africa's population, adult population, are not connected to the internet. And so we see that while we're looking at the technology evolution as opposed to the service evolving, the 4G maturity is a long runway conversation, and 5G has barely begun to scratch the surfaces. So I think 2023 for Africa spells a showdown in terms of the accelerated digital divide.
Okay. I mean, we saw over the last years, also through the pandemic and also through certain situations in the world, there's kind of inflation, so everything is getting more expensive. I mean, and we saw it that also affordability of connectivity and devices is still a big issue in Africa. What do you see as a kind of improvement for this year? What would you wish would happen to give more people the opportunities to have, let's say, affordable connectivity?
I think, as a global village that we are, I think there is some form of imperative that we are in it together, as not just Africa, but the world at large. We're in it together because I think it is in the interest of everybody not to leave anyone behind and therefore not to leave anybody offline. And to that effect, looking at the main key barriers for Africa and its citizens to be able to trade digitally with the rest of the world and partake of this new digital economy, I think it's imperative that we address the affordability of devices because, on the supply side, the investors and the investment is still being made towards evolving the technology and making it available, but the consumer side has been largely ignored and they can't afford the devices. And so I think we can look at a radical approach. I think we can borrow a leaf from the pharmaceuticals in how they addressed the availability of drugs in the region towards, helping us, afford generic drugs. Is it possible and is it plausible that the OEMs for, devices can have a relook at their business case towards availing the intellectual property at an affordable cost for Africa so that we can actually solve this problem once and for all? Incrementally, year on year, we see, a 1% or a 2% increase in terms of closing the usage gap, which is the number of Africans who are actually using either 3G or 4G to go online. But 1%, 2% will not get us there by 2063. And therefore, I think that if we are interested in creating this global village where everybody comes online and everybody wins from a doing business for good is good business, I think it's an imperative that we need to relook at.
Yeah, that's a really valid point to see it more as a global issue. So how is the GSMA actually working on supporting entrepreneurship in the area? So what initiatives do you have in place?
So the GSMA, we have a program that works with everyone in the industry, the community, in terms of how we view innovation for solving specific, unique African challenges by the African citizens. And we call it the GSMA Mobile for Development Program. Therein, we define solutions in the different verticals, whether it is how we can solve the connected gap in terms of women going online in Africa today. I think year on year since 2017, we haven't moved the needle beyond a 36% gap in men and women utilizing the mobile services. So I think, services like looking at how we can review or look at products with the perspective of how women want to consume those services.
Yeah.
We're also looking at programs such as agriculture in terms of the agri-tech. The need for farmers to be able to relook how they've been doing farming traditionally vis-a-vis access to technology that allows them to predict weather, look at how they can get access to seeds and fertilizers at an affordable price, and how they can get their produce to market whereby they're not being the losers in the market, but it's a win-win for both the consumers and the farmers who have done the investment. So across our projects at the Mobile for Development, we have a GSMA Innovation Fund that seeks to provide grants, seed money in terms of about $100,000 to about $250,000 for helping them move their ideas from a minimal viable product to scale, because that's what's needed in Africa, and that's what GSMA is doing. We're putting some skin in the game. We're helping solutions that are derived for the continent across the globe, and helping our people get access to those innovations.
So, and is there any specific sector where you say today that you see the biggest opportunities or the biggest growth, also in terms of demand?
I think the biggest opportunity is in the area of agri-tech, and the simple reason is because it's going to leverage the infrastructure and the innovation that's been there on the mobile money space. A lot of, instead of rebuilding new platforms, we see many innovators taking advantage of the mobile money platform and the access to the open APIs to build services on top of that platform, so that if it's a matter of getting your produce to the market, you see good examples like Twiga. So Twiga in Africa has actually piggybacked on that ecosystem, and they're being able to deliver farm produce to the hands of consumers, and they pay through it to the mobile money services. And they're able to get insights from that entire ecosystem to understanding how to be more efficient in making sure that there is no waste in terms of agricultural produce, and it's in the sufficient quantities that people can afford to buy.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The GSMA has signed today an agreement with the African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to utilize the power of mobile to combat disease in Africa. So can you tell us a bit more about this partnership or agreement you signed?
Yes, so we are very delighted and pleased to announce that we have signed this MOU with Africa CDC, and the intent is towards looking at a post-pandemic situation where we realize that indeed we need to take a very critical look at how we are able to deliver digital health services to our people. During the pandemic, access to information about how the pandemic was going to impact our health and how we could prevent the spread of it was very limited. But we saw a quick innovation from across the globe and across the industry in Africa on how they were able to piggyback off of the mobile services infrastructure, even through rudimentary services like SMS, to be able to give that information, to be able to do voice sort of messages through ringback tones to people. I think in Ethiopia they did that remarkably, across a whole population of their subscriber base, around 70 million subscriber base in Ethiotel, and they just helped create awareness. So I think the intent of this MOU is to come towards building a platform for advancing digital health services greater and greater. How can we use innovation towards telemedicine? Because we know we have a limited infrastructure on the availability of doctors in terms of the number of doctors to people ratio. So I think we can use this opportunity towards making sure that as we solve the problem in smartphones and people are able to use video calling, they're able to do rudimentary telemedicine towards understanding the criticality of situations that our people find themselves in, and then how we can have conversations solutions in terms of improving the infrastructure. So we don't have to have a brick and mortar, approach towards solving health, but we can use the platform of mobile services towards closing the gap on digital health in Africa.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm joined by Jean-Philbert from the CDC Africa. Hello, Jean.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So, you signed today the agreement with the GSMA. Can you tell us a bit more about, the idea behind and what you, expect from it? And what was your intention?
So the intention is to strengthen the partnership between the telecom sector and the public health sector, because we believe that the future of healthcare in Africa is going to be digital. And together we need to work in partnership with the telecom industry, with the technology industry, and then we bring the public health understanding and needs. We match them with the power of technology, and we start solving the problems that are facing our continent as far as public health is concerned.
So what do you see as the biggest opportunity of such a partnership? Or what are, the initiatives you wish would come out of it?
There are three things that are contained in the MOU. First and foremost is Health Connect Africa, which is an initiative to make sure that all health facilities and the health workforce of our continent is connected by the year 2030. So we're talking about connecting 100,000 health facilities and at least 1 million health workers across the 54 members of the African Union by the year 2030. So that's number one. Number two, we need to encourage, promote and accelerate homegrown innovation. On top of that connectivity, there will be innovation to generate data. That data will be used to improve and strengthen public health systems. And we believe that we have the capacity among our entrepreneurs, innovators, our young people to create those solutions, and we need to provide them a platform. So we're going to work with GSMA on that, because GSMA also has a very big focus on promoting youth innovation. And finally, we are going to convene together the digital health community during the Mobile World Congress Africa in Kigali in October. We're going to bring Africa Health Tech Summit, which is a convening of public health and technology in Africa, to really continue this conversation and check on progress.
Very interesting. So what would you say, how important are such partnerships with the GSMA to, better the lives of the people in Africa?
This is a very vital. I was having a conversation yesterday with the director, and we realized that there is already an impact that technology is having on health. Technology is saving lives today, and we need to find and tell those stories. And I think coming together, the combined power of the two organizations, we can start telling those stories of how technology is saving lives. And by telling those stories, you bring more goodwill, you bring more attention, and then you scale up and deepen your impact.
That's a valid point. Fully agree. Thank you very much, Jean. It was a pleasure. It's a pleasure talking to you. The MWC Barcelona is actually the beginning of the MWC Africa. I mean, when we leave Barcelona, we're all getting ready for autumn this year. So what can we expect from the second in-person edition of the MWC Africa?
And that's very interesting, and obviously I welcome everybody to come to MWC Africa in Kigali. That will be between 17th to the 19th of October. Last year, in the edition that we did, we started looking at segments that will really amplify the narrative in Africa. In the area of fintech, which we're doing very well and trying to move to the next level of fintech in the region. We started the conversations on 5G in the 5G summit, and a specific look on how Africa will embrace 5G to solve specific problems in the enterprise space and how we can increase efficiencies in the way we work. This year, together with the Africa CDC, we're trying to look at how we can have an Africa Health Tech Summit at MWC Africa. And again, to begin to have those conversations on bringing in the different players in the health space and how we can relook at providing solutions. So I think as we continue to grow the event in the region, it is actually a platform for convening conversations that address specific challenges in the region. So really we invite everybody, anyone interested in partaking of this digital economy in Africa, welcome to MWC Africa and help us leapfrog into the next era of mobile.
Sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to. Thanks for your time, Angela. That was TechAfrica news from the Mobile World Congress Barcelona 2023. Check out more videos and insights on techafricanews.com.